So what do we want to hit first?
Hit the tape.
After that.
Well, we can just go down the line. Hang on just a minute. You know what? That didn't really help either.
It helped me.
I can read them to you if you need.
Well,
Oh, this way I kind of see two. This way I just see one.
I'll just hold those back for. Are we ready to go? Are we going?
You are now on camera.
Hello,
Oh,
Rusty,
happy days.
Springfield Leather.
Hi, Kevin with Springfield Leather and with Rusty.
All right, so we 2 weeks ago we did this.
Yep.
Yeah, it went over kind of good, and it even made me. I actually went home and watched myself on YouTube. That's an experience.
In itself, yeah.
It even made my wife laugh a time or two, so that was okay. So we learned a few things. At least I did. And I'm sure you probably did too.
Yeah.
We learned, number one, that there's some questions out there that are very common, and we thought this is not a bad way to answer some of those questions. This first one on here is from a gentleman who's picked up a sewing machine for his first time, and my goodness, Jeff, yeah, how many guys out there have picked up a sewing machine for their first time? And they've called us and said, Kevin, we watched your video on YouTube, you and Rusty, and blah, blah, blah. It's great, wonderful. You guys are stars and ought to get paid for being comedians, which is true. I'd be up for that. But anyway, they said, we took your advice. We bought a sewing machine, and we're finding out that there's a few things I don't know. Like, what thread do I use for this? And then, what needle do I use for that thread? And that's kind of a big deal. So for those of you that are new to the sewing machine world, if you don't use the right size needle with the right size thread, things...
And the right size thread on top compared to the right size thread on the bottom, with the right size thread in comparison to the thickness of the leather you're selling. Or sewing.
For heaven's sakes.
But I'm right.
You know, I thought I had the superpower of being able to complicate simple things.
You do.
So the answer, without going into a whole bunch of details, and without getting into, why does this say all kinds of weird things on the back?
Because
it says
you have
ARP,
dumb
it says
dogs.
snippety woof. Anyway, the simple answer,
I don't know. It just keeps coming.
is to call us or email us and say, hey, I saw that you guys have a little leather machine guide, a Springfield leather machine guide. This has all the information you need about which thread to use with which needle. It explains needle sizes and thread sizes. And just to give you a little insight, the larger the number, size of the needle, the larger the needle. The larger the number of the size of the thread, the larger the thread. So these are free. This was a labor of love. Oh my goodness.
But you don't have to wait. I mean, if you want us to throw one in an order, no problem. But it's on the website.
Oh.
If you scroll down, if Lefty hasn't moved it on me, if you scroll down to the middle of the website, there's these circles, and one says machines, and if you click into that, it's in there somewhere.
It will be until maybe sometime next week with the new website.
Oh, yeah, right. So until the new website comes out, it's in that circle. But if you just flip page to page, and you've got it at your at
happy days.
your fingertips.
So that'll save you having to wait.
Well, it also talks about the specials that we offer of the packages and put together. It gives you the pricing of the machines. It gives you the specs of the machines. It gives you all of that stuff, plus more.
I don't even think there was very many mistakes in here. I think this was pretty good. And my stars, you were a lot skinnier than me. Well, anyway.
In February.
Yeah. So, let's see. Next question. This is exciting to me.
I was going to say, maybe before we do that. So, you remember last time we talked about a bundle. We did talk about this, right?
Yeah.
So, this is Cape Buffalo. We've been doing this bundle put together. You're getting, what was it, 20?
It's 23 to 25 square feet.
There you go.
And now we kind of have our act. Well, I have my act together. I don't know. We've got it together. The bundle is available and for sale, and we're selling them. We're not going to have these forever.
No, they're selling very fast, actually.
And this is an excellent value because it looks so much like elephant in some regards.
Did you gauge it?
Well, no, but I can tell you what they are.
Well, I know.
I snapped my leather gauge on that one. That one's 3.5.
I'd go with that. I was just looking for something that made it look professional, but
Hot lip. I like it.
yeah, well, so we did mention that sometimes some of the colors had some smaller pieces, so you would end up maybe with a multiple, like two of one color.
And just so they know, in all fairness, and to not have you under the bus too badly on this, I'm the guy that makes all these stupid bundles.
He's the guy.
Myself and a young lady named Corey, we make every single one of these. And so we've got to do our best to make sure that you get a good representation of color. I can tell you right now there's going to be 2 gray in every single bundle.
Is it gray? When we grabbed this one out of the box, that was just the way that it came out.
Well, this is a really big piece. You want to hold that there? This is probably the biggest piece you'd ever see in one of these bundles. It's got 5.5 square feet. I think I saw 1 6-footer.
This is the same bundle that we used 2 weeks ago as Wyatt.
The vast majority of these pieces will be pieces that run 3, 4, 4.5.
These will make bags. These will make journal covers. Andrew,
journal covers.
You should check out Andrew.
Our Instagram page, we reposted.
Yeah, he's been doing some awesome journal or field note with them. You can make super cool satchels.
Yeah, and some of this stuff, like this particular piece, you could tell somebody that was elephant, and if they didn't know better, it probably would be very convincing.
But you wouldn't do that.
Well, no, but I'm just saying it's got that same classic grain, and you're basically paying about $5.50 a
But
foot.
you wouldn't do that. This is Cape Buffalo. What is wrong with you today?
And you got the number down there on the bottom.
So here's something I like though. There on all of these, there's a lot of live edge, and so when I make a satchel, I like to use like that right there as the flat. And so these all have like 2 to 3 sides of live edge on them that'll give you the ability to use that if you like doing it. But the graining on them it goes from not looking like much to looking like an elephant knee to looking, it's got this one to me, this color has sort of a hippo look to it. So
and that's the nice thing. You get the look of elephant or hippo or giraffe all for about $5 a foot instead of the $30 a foot that those things cost.
That's bad. So, okay, so we've done that.
144
did that.
129.
144-129, and it's what, 129?
129.
And you get
That sounds like the old Hee-Haw show, BR549. That was some of the old people out there. They'll remember that.
I remember that.
Well, anyway, why don't we talk about this little thing?
Well, let's talk about this little thing first.
This is
part of our resellers.
Oh, cool.
And so it's a cast iron skillet handle. And,
I have those.
Well, I went camping last weekend, or this last weekend. And, I've got like 6 cast iron skillets and not one single handle that we make here. And I could have made myself out of stuff that got thrown away, but I didn't. I burned myself about 28 times along with the raccoons. So anyway, you can buy these. We make them. They're great resellers. They're
Why
super
would
cheap.
anybody burn a raccoon?
It's all in context. That kind of ran together a little bit. Let's focus on
Let's just
this.
forget that.
Okay, so we do carry a product called Tokenol. We also carry a product called Toco Pro. There are supply chain issues with the entire world. So you may find that we have one when we don't have the other necessarily.
This was good
but
because
they are extremely comparable. Do you want to do this? You want to buzz in on this one, Leslie?
Yeah, let me show you the.
You just take it up there and hand it.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean,
And try to look at both screens at once.
Yeah. Come on, you got this. You can go around where you got to step over the cord instead of going around it.
So
I can't get it to focus.
Well, so basically what we did, for those that are, oh, gag.
There we go. Hey, your face did it.
Well, see if you can't correct that.
All right. So
Since Rusty mentioned supply chains, sometimes one company can't provide and another can. So we were very fortunate to be able to obtain this. It works so stinking good, it's not funny.
well, show me.
Okay, I'm gonna first of all.
I have a paper towel. Do you want it? Or
Thank
you gonna use
you.
your
I'm
finger?
going to take my
You're going to take your little tea pinky.
my little finger here. I'm going to put some gunk on it, and I'm going to put this right on the
By
edge.
gunk, he means very good gunk.
This very high quality Toco Pro
You said gunk. I mean not.
stuff. Oh, it goes on nice. I'll say that.
Oh,
You know, this is kind of fun. I think I'm going to do just a little more edge here. And
but you're going to leave us some to look at, right?
if you're squeamish, you can just
Squeamish.
yeah, it's like squamish except squeamish. You can use
What do they call that? A long E?
I don't know, but you can use a little Q-tip or something, or whatever you need. And then
We have a wooden burnish for you.
I learned a long time ago, this comes from growing old fur, that you put the lid back on. Okay, we'll have to go to wood burnish. Doesn't it need to be dry first? We'll just rub on it with my fingers, make sure it will hurry up a little bit.
I was gonna say you don't want it completely dry.
As many of you know, burnishing chrome tanned leather has been just the bane of many leather crafters' existence for a long time. And heavens knows we don't need any more banes than we really have already. So, well, we don't. I don't
Banes
want
to our existence. I mean, you don't want to insult somebody named Bane.
You know, boy, if you had an electric one of these things, it'd be really nice. But this just flat works.
One of these days we'll get you one.
Thank you. This is, well, that's just hard to beat.
All right, here we go.
Here, take this one too.
Okay.
This one was this is a little thing that we did a little while ago, and it's got that same stuff on it. Keep your face out of there. You could be distracted. That's good. Well, if you can't see it, just imagine that you can. This might be one of those instances where, depending on the skill of the cameraman, you might have to take our word that it worked.
You're good. All right. I think you can see it. It's pretty glossy on there.
It is. It's you know what? Compared to not being able to get it to burnish at
Well,
all,
compared to what it was,
you're going to find out that
goodness.
the more you play with it, the more you practice with it, the better you're going to get, and the more you're going to appreciate the ability to be able to
that's
do it.
taking on a nice shine now. Yeah, that's really good.
We'll
You
post
know-
a picture on our social media.
Well, so the part of it too is the thickness. Using it in the different grooves will put pressure in different spots. And so I went to the real narrow groove, which gave me good pressure on the outer edges. I went to the medium, which put pressure back in the center, which is going to give me a complete burnish.
Yeah, that's a nice tip. A lot of people, when they make a belt, they don't like the fact that the back side of the belt is rough. And there's other applications that they don't want the back of the leather to be rough. So our camera guy here took a little piece of buffalo leather, split it down very, very thin, type of thing that would work. Man, this would make great interiors. Well, that's nice. Anyway, but you don't want it rough. So we took a little Toco Pro and smeared it on here. Then we used a glass slicker. Where did we get that one? SLC. And you worked it. Man, I mean to tell you, after just a little bit of work, that thing slicks up incredibly. Now, from the picture, you might be able to see there's a little color difference here. That's where we did not apply the Toco Pro. It's a little hard to explain the difference, but I can tell you, if you take a finger And you put it on this rough spot, and you put a little pressure and start to slide across this leather. You'll all of a sudden hit the TopoPro area, and your finger will go faster just because it's so slick.
So if you get leather from anywhere that's like this, and it's got a pasted back, that's the equivalent of what you're going to get, is that pasted back. So for instance, this piece has been split. If you wanted that back pasted to be like this, there you go. You can also take this piece of the split, paste both sides, and then be able to use it for whatever you want, and it ends up with a nice product. I'm just saying, it's how you utilize your leather. All right, so you want to talk about...
Well, this is kind of a big deal to me. And the reason is, as I mentioned last week and this week, we get a lot of emails asking us how to do this, what do I use for that, and what size this, and how do I get this color. I answer a lot of those emails. I also push a number of those emails to people in our store that have more experience perhaps than I do in those things. But one question we get a lot is, how do you get that Sheridan Style color? How do you resist? What products do you use to resist your tooling when antiquing? Those two questions, oh my goodness, we get a lot. There's no right or wrong answer, but I'm going to give you a really, really good answer. So there's going to be an A and a B part. If you want to write some of this down, feel free. I guess I don't have to give them time to get a pen because they can watch this stupid thing again.
Yeah, and I didn't bring one, so
I got one to use. No. Okay, this is parts of a pommel bag that our leather tooler here has done. And you can see it's a very pleasant color. And it has used these products. Hopefully they're visible on the screen. So I want to show you or tell you the process. First of all, we use Herman Oak leather. I don't mean to be preachy about Herman Oak, but when you use a good quality leather, you get good results or better results.
When you use a quality tan, the leather, the tannage, you use a quality tannage.
That's a good way to put it. So anyway, do all your tooling, your stamping first. That's the thing. And let it dry. That's important. You've got to let it dry. It has to be evenly dry. Sometimes you tool something and you end up with a lot more water up here in one corner and it takes longer to dry. Well, suffer through it. You got to let it dry. Otherwise, everything's going to work differently. So once it's dry, give it a light coat of oil. Pure neat's foot is preferred. You can use others. There's people that use olive oil. There's people that use vegetable oil. There's people that use prime neat's foot oil compound. That's fine.
Compound too, yeah.
But pure neat's foot oil seems to be nice. So there you go. Take that for what it's worth. Now, here's the key, at least for us. Once that has dried, it takes about an hour for it to set, so to speak. Remember, light coat of oil. Wait about an hour for it to set. Then your Master's Quick Shine. That is just I don't know, we're believers in this stuff. And Denny, our leather tooler, he turned 70 a day after I did. And we both looked at each other and thought, how in the world did that happen? But at least we know enough to use this stuff.
How did the quick shine happen? Or
no.
How did you guys turn 70 the day apart?
I couldn't figure that out because he's a lot older looking than I.
Well,
anyway, Master's Quick Shine works really well. Now, if you like something else, more power to you. If you want to do it and get these results, I would suggest you give this a try. You'll never regret it. Okay, so you give it a good coat of Master's Quick Shine spray, let it dry. Once it's dry, then you antique the dumb thing. Now, with that being said, there's different kinds of antique. You can use the paste, which if you don't know how to use that paste, that's a pain. This stuff, Beebing's Antique Gel Paste is a winner. Denny and I both agree. We'd rather use this than the paste any day. It just flat works. We sell both. I don't care which one you buy. I'm just trying to make your life easier. So
You're a giver. You're a giver.
My job is to not only entertain, but to make your life easier. Give it a good coat.
Hang on just a second. I don't mean to interrupt that. So your job is to make whose life easier?
The customers.
It's not.
I don't care about you.
Okay, all right. So we have tooled, we have dried, we have oiled, we have dried, we have masters, we have dried,
yes.
We have
antique paste, and then you remove it with a piece of sheepskin or a cloth or whatever you want, and let that dry, and give it a happy another coat of Master Quick Shine, and you are good to go. Now, that's the A part of this whole deal. The B part is coming up. So you can see how the background area is dark. Well, this says that's because of the antique. That's just what it did. If you want it to be darker, you can very carefully paint those background areas with a fine brush and your choice of color of a Phoebe's dye or an Angelus dye. You have to be careful when you do that because that stuff bleeds. It doesn't take you long to figure that out. A little bleeding, don't worry about it too much because your antiquing is going to correct that look.
Okay, so you're not talking about painting on a gel or a paste. You're talking about painting on a dye.
I'm talking about painting on a penetrating dye. Okay. A regular, either oil dye or an alcohol-based dye, a solvent-based dye.
So in this scenario, we've used our masters as a resist.
As a resist of the whole thing. I'm coming to that.
Okay. Right.
So this is part of the B thing. So if you decide to paint the background, happy days, do that. But here's where the other question comes in that I get all the time. What if I want these flowers to remain natural, to not have the antique effect done? What do you use for a resist for that? Well, there's a million answers out there. Here's what we would use. It's called RTC. You have to put that on with a brush. Do it very well. A couple of coats will be fine.
At what point are we putting this on?
Well, after you have painted your...
So we're on B.
Yes. Okay. After you have painted your background.
Okay.
After you have tooled your background.
Oh, okay. So this is before we put any oil even on it.
Yes. Then you would, after you've painted your background, then you would decide what color you want to end up with out here. If you like a lighter color, skip the oil if you like that. If you want this color, then you'd need to oil it.
So
then comes this.
Okay, so my question for you is I've spent several hours of time here. Should I try this process on that?
I would try it on a little piece of leather that I'd tool the flower on and just do that.
So that's what I'm thinking. Now, with that being said, if you want to do the basic, tool it, put your oil on, let it dry, put this on, let it dry, put this on, let it dry, and spray it again, this is what you're going to get, right? Yes. But if you want to get real detail contrast,
if you want a bigger
that's
contrast,
a practicing thing.
You want something to remain natural, you have to paint on a resist over the areas that you want natural. The classic example is on a belt where you stamp a name into the back of it. And you want to antique the belt, but you want the letters to stand out. So you paint the letters with this, let it dry really well, then you antique it. You wipe it off, and it works. You can use other products for a resist. Most of them will not work quite as well as RTC. People say I use Super Sheen. fine. Use super sheen. It works to some degree. Leather sheen, whatever, it works. This is better. You got to remember, penetrating dye goes in and it will go under. So be careful when you're using penetrating dye to dye the background areas. Same thing. This stuff, if you're not careful, it bleeds out and it will protect and resist anything. It will not resist very well alcohol dye or oil dye. If that's part of the B question. People say that, well, I want this to be natural. I want to resist the areas and then dye it with alcohol dye or professional oil dye. I'm sorry, you can do that, but more than likely it's not going to be very happy. So that's the B part. That's how you do a resist. I hope it was semi-clear.
Well, the thing is this goes back to something that I learned and something that I tell people all the time. Leather working is like a science project. It is trial and error, and it is practice makes perfect. And, the funny thing is all we're doing is telling you how this was accomplished, and we're making recommendations of how to use these products to accomplish something. If you want to do it and try it differently, by all means, it's
Second effort will always be better than your first.
that's fact. So we have covered a multitude of things.
A couple questions along with it.
Okay.
One was, if we're thinning down the feeding pro dye, can we just do that with?
Denatured alcohol.
There you go. Any news on hair blades? When I get some back in? I was actually looking for one yet.
Fine question.
No, but I will look into that, and we will make sure that
And
they
we
do
will
that.
make sure that there's some sort of a comment made about it.
That may be all I see. Can we go over the product one more time?
By the way, on the hair blades, there's several tools that you can use to get that effect. One is a number 366 craft tool stamp. That works really well. You can also use a 916 craft tool stamp to achieve a hair effect. There's, I believe, there's several other camouflage tools that work, but those two will do pretty well.
You just have those numbers lodged in there, don't you?
My gosh.
All right. Go over the products again. What would you like? Like these?
Well, one other question. Which one is better for Resolene or Master Quick Shine?
They are a different
Yeah.
product, and depending on what you're doing, for this, Master's Quick Shine. Resolene, most people have a tendency to put it on with a dauber. That's not always happy.
Resolene is very humidity effective.
Very humidity effective.
I've had people say, hey, I've been using Resolene for 25 years, and I was thinking about using Leather Balm with Atom Wax. Okay, why are you thinking about that? I don't know. Well, how do you like the results of the Resolene? Oh, I love them. So
Why switch?
Yeah, but the thing is all of them are different animals, and so they're going to have different characteristics.
And
The
that was
Resolene is a water base as well.
that was a good question, Tony, because a lot of the finishes, the acrylic finishes, such as Resolene, Super Sheen, Pro Clear, and some others, are very subject to humidity.
Yeah.
Especially if heavily applied on a day like today in Springfield, Missouri. You could apply that stuff with a dauber. It would go on too heavy, and it would remain sticky in some guy's pocket for like months.
So yeah, if your shop's not air conditioned or wherever you're doing it's not air conditioned, the lighter the coats, the better. The lighter the coats, the better anyway, but you're going to have different variations. It's kind of like a car running different at different altitudes.
Yeah. And this doesn't have the same level of issues with humidity.
This is more of a chemical base, so it's going to have an evaporative scent characteristic about it, and so it's going to dry quicker. It will take more time if it's put on thicker, same as anything.
If you spray saddle lac outside and it's extremely humid, you can actually cloud your project.
And what has happened is you've trapped moisture under the finish.
Yes.
So if you're a wood guy and you've ever had a cloudy lacquer finish, that's what you've done too, is you've trapped moisture under it. it can be gotten out, but it's not a very friendly situation.
So we got a couple more minutes here, and we'll cover the last couple questions. What finishes are good for? We covered like veg tan, but for pull-up leather, for oil tan, just
oil tan leathers really don't need a finish. But if I was going to want to put something on it, just because I wanted to put something on it, it might be neat's foot oil. Now, that being said, it would be an awfully light coat. The other thing I might do is I might try some Masters Quick Shine. But the only reason I would be that I had done what Rusty suggested. I'd cut off a little piece of it, tried some Masters Quick Shine on it, and buffed it to see if it would do what I want to do. The oil tan leathers are 99% of the time chrome tan, so they're extremely weather resistant. You just don't have to put an additional protector on.
Well, the other thing is the way that you get a pull-up is you do a light colored crust, which is, this is the color of the crust right here, and then you use a combination of waxes and oils, and you're actually moving the oil, and that's why on a pull-up you can rub that oil back in and make that line go away. So whatever you're putting over needs to be able to deal with the amount of wax and oils that's in that pull-up.
That's the challenge.
The other thing is any kind of oils like this will darken the leather and change the amount of pull-up that you get out of it. You're more likely than not, if you put an acrylic finish of any sort over an oil tan, you're going to have a bad day because it'll never dry.
If that'll be happy.
What's that Black Rock? I've used it on a few things, putting over top of it.
Black Rock works. Aussies works. But you do alter the leather a little bit.
Yeah, I think Ray Holes works, and it's
saddle butter.
Yeah, it's all about application and trial and error. Because you can even put those things in conjunction with burnishing your edges before you put things like the Toconol and stuff like that on, and you can end up with a glassy edge.
Another good point about that question is that if you're doing this for durability's sake, then the Aussies, the Black Rock, what was the other one? Saddle butter. Those things work really well because they are flat out going to penetrate, and they are flat out going to give you increased protection and durability. They alter the leather a little bit, but hey, if you're using it for...
So I did that on my tablet cover. I took one of those nylon tablet covers and I covered it in a thin leather, and I used Black Rock on it. And I did that about 3 years ago, and it's just now gotten to where I can really begin to tell the
color of the leather.
Yeah, what color the leather was because of use over time. So, on a bag or something that gets more flex, that's going to break down that amount of time. But like my tablet cover is very firm except for where it folds. So if you're doing it on a pair of chaps or something, happy days.
No
something that's going to get a lot of work and a lot of movement, you'll get through that, and it will protect it, and you won't see as much alteration because of the amount of crumbling and use.
Other question?
So the Toco Pro, there's been a couple questions about, is it going to stay slick after a couple days, and is it going to crack after a couple days?
No.
It's good. It works.
No, it stays flexible. Has been very happy.
Yeah,
we've not had any problem with it at all. There's a number of crafters.
Toconol and Toco Pro.
Toconol and Toco Pro.
I mean, you can just tell from the name that somebody has figured out how to make the original Toconol, so they've done a good job of it. They're both in Japan.
And the bundle name one more time. African.
Oh, it's African Cape Buffalo. It's 144-129. Numbers I do.
All
right. Well, I guess that's it. Still, we're going to do this hopefully a couple weeks from now.
In a couple weeks.
If they don't throw us out.
Why are we doing it live instead of doing a recorded video? I can answer that.
Oh, yeah, because you don't have to edit it that way.
Because Lefty doesn't have time to edit it at the moment.
Well, I tell you what, we really appreciate the questions. Please save them up because we'll be back in 2 weeks. Give us some feedback through however you want to about things that you'd like to ask questions about so we can be answering your questions instead of just up here making fun of each other. Seriously, we do that enough anyway. I mean, if you want to learn something, think of some questions that you'd like the answers to.
And we'll find them.
We'll find them or we'll make them up. It's good to see you.
Bye.